Hi, welcome to the Online Jewelry Academy. I'm Professor John Ahr and I'm your instructor. In this video, I'm going to teach you about reticulation, silver reticulation to be specific. Now, right here I have an example of what we're going for. It's a piece of silver that has been reticulated. It's given the appearance of like a mountain range or wrinkly skin out of the bathtub. And over here, I have an example of a piece of jewelry that was made with a piece of reticulated silver that was given a slight dome, set in a bezel, and then coated with a clear acrylic resin that was given a red tint. So it produces a result that looks very dramatic on the hand. Now, reticulation is pretty easy to accomplish, but there are a few tricks to getting a really good result. Number one, you want to work with an alloy blend that's an 80-20 blend, meaning that it's 80% silver and 20% copper. Now, you may find this through a manufacturer, but if you can't, you can always make your own. Now, I made my own alloy, and I have a strip of it right here. So this is my 80-20 blend, and I made it by casting a small ingot with sterling silver casting grain, where I added a small amount of copper to it. And as you can see, it produced sort of a yellowy, kind of a almost electrum color of silver. It's not as pure as sterling. And while I'm talking about that, let's mention something very important. If you make a piece of jewelry out of this material, you cannot mark it sterling. You have to identify that it is a piece of an 80-20 alloy. Okay? All right, so in a previous video, I taught you how to frost or use depletion plating on a piece of silver to enrich the surface of that metal and create a coating of fine silver on the metal. All right, well, this is very important if you're going to do reticulation because, as you can see, I have carefully frosted this piece of silver over and over and over again, at least 20 times. It's a three-part process where the metal is lightly annealed or heated just to the point where it goes dull, and then it is put into the pickle pot, and the copper that's on the surface is allowed to leach out and go into solution in the pickle bath, and then it's brass brushed or burnished in order to produce this surface. Now, some of you were a little confused from the frosting video. You didn't quite understand the fact that the burnishing is a necessary step. It actually helps to remove oxides, copper, anything that's stuck on that surface basically, and helps you to maintain a more enriched silver surface. Plus, it hardens the fine silver that's on that surface. And you can see the fine silver is a lot wider than this 80-20 blend. When you're frosting, you don't want to overheat. And I have a sample right here. Now, this piece of silver, you can see it has been frosted, but it got a little overheated, and you can see it started to reticulate. You don't want that. Now, you could fix that. You could hammer on top of it, or you could run that piece through the rolling mill to re-smooth it and start over if you want. Another thing about the actual frosting process. In that video, you saw how I took the piece and heated it to a very dull surface by just an application of a little bit of heat, and then I immediately quenched it in a hot pickle. All right, quenching will help to produce a smaller crystal or a smaller crystal size internally, which makes a piece actually a little bit more malleable. For this operation, we actually want to grow larger crystals, so you would air cool the piece after you heat it. So these have been heated multiple times, allowed to air cool so that the crystals inside get rather large while the copper depletes off the surface. So when we get to the point where we reticulate, all we're going to do is reapply heat in order to cause the internal alloy to become molten while the fine silver surface stays solid. And then by heating and pulling away the heat, this back and forth action with the torch will cause it to crystallize and remelt and become just crazy, so that that fine silver surface flows right over the crystals and produces a grainy effect. It's completely natural and easy to do. All right, let me clear this away and I'll show you how to reticulate that surface. Okay, I've set up the bench for reticulation. Now remember, safety first. Put on your eye protection, you never know. Now, to just clarify, the piece that I have here to reticulate, remember, it was annealed lightly, just to a low heat till the surface went dull, about 20 times, and allowed to air cool so that the crystal growth inside would be large. Now, this piece of metal is about 24 gauge. 24 gauge really does work the best for reticulation. You can go thicker, but you're going to have to apply more heat when you reticulate it. And you can reticulate items that are bent. You don't have to do it flat, but most of the time you're going to do it flat. They can be bent and or domed, like the example that I showed earlier with the ring, but be sure to do it lightly and to use soft tools like wooden dapping blocks. Okay, let me show you a couple of secrets. The first one is, and most books won't tell you this, a good trick is warm the area that you're going to reticulate on. Just take your torch and preheat this surface. It doesn't have to be scalding hot. You just want it a little bit warm. Okay, so I've warmed it up. I'm going to place my silver piece right there, and then I'm going to relight my torch. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to go in and out with heat. I'm going to kind of overheat and then pull away. If you've seen the fusing video, this will make better sense to you. So I'm just lightly heating overall, and then I'm going to concentrate in a particular area. So I'm going for this upper corner first. Now you can keep a solder pick handy, and you can actually drag it on the surface to help control the shape of the crystals. Notice how the fine silver is really looking white right now. Now this torch gets up high, and you can begin to see that some of the copper is leaching through in this area where I overheated, but you begin to see the wrinkles happen. It's like magic. And you can stop at any point. Let's stop there. Okay, I'm going to pickle this a little bit to just clean it up, and I'll give it a brass brush and show you what it looks like. Okay, I took that piece of reticulated silver and put it into the pickle pot, and I brought the pot up here so you could see what it looks like as I take it out. Now remember, this thing had been annealed multiple times to produce a fine silver surface. So let me neutralize the acid and lay it down for you. And you can see we got that bright white fine silver back, and you can see just a little bit of shadowing where a little bit of the copper from the inside leached out of it. So like in this area right over here. But guess what? It's going to brass brush right off. All right, so I put a little bit of soap in here. Get my brass brush wet. And let's just brass brush it a little bit. And now let's do the back. And you'll be surprised. Sometimes the back will reticulate in ways that you don't expect. So you may actually love the back better than the front. All right, so first, here, let me move this out of the way so you can see it a little better. I'll put it against the black. This is the back side. But let's turn it over and look at the front. There's our front. And isn't that amazing? It's bright and clean and wrinkly and ready to be incorporated into a jewelry piece. I hope you like this technique and this video. Remember, you can always check out our entire playlist online at onlinejewelryacademy.com or here on YouTube. And you can follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks for watching.